The Galaxy S26 launch is poised to be a disaster, but there may be a way for Samsung to salvage the situation. What the company needs is a two-phone S26 lineup along with a wildcard entry. Emulating a company perceived as an industry leader doesn't always yield positive results. At times, it can feel like the blind leading the blind. Samsung is fixated on following Apple's lead, and if this trend continues unchecked, it could drive the South Korean giant into a precarious position. When the combined demand for your three models falls short of expectations, the logical step is to introduce an additional variant to the lineup. That appears to be Samsung's reasoning. Given that the Galaxy Plus model has historically underperformed in comparison to the standard and Ultra models, the company initially planned to omit it from the lineup. Instead, it intended to introduce an Edge variant, likely influenced by the design of the iPhone Air, which itself was inspired by the Google Pixel 10. However, with the market showing no significant appetite for smaller devices, Samsung has seemingly decided to develop the Galaxy S26 Plus, a mere 4 months ahead of its scheduled release. The Edge model will still be available, leading Samsung to plan the unveiling of 4 variants in February. Consumers have demonstrated a lack of interest in both the Edge and the Plus models. While the S26 Edge and Galaxy S26 Plus may cater to a specific niche, they are unlikely to attract a broad audience. Introducing 2 uninspiring models into the lineup will dilute the overall appeal of the series. Most smartphone manufacturers aim for at least 3 models in their premium offerings to appeal to a wider range of buyers. Nevertheless, I believe introducing a 4th model will only yield diminishing returns for Samsung. I would suggest that Samsung either scrap or postpone the S26 Edge and the S26 Plus, and instead incorporate the Galaxy trifold into the S26 portfolio. Smartphone manufacturers often replicate concepts from one another. It's part of the industry dynamic. Thus, while Samsung should not be blamed for taking cues from Apple, it must learn to imitate more intelligently. Apple doesn't rush to adopt new features. It observes what works, then presents it in a way that suggests it originated the idea. There is nothing inherently wrong with taking a cautious approach. Apple is expected to unveil its first foldable smartphone alongside. Copy the correct things. Smartphone makers routinely copy concepts from each other. It's part of the game. So while Samsung doesn't deserve blame for borrowing cues from Apple, it needs to learn how to imitate smarter. The Galaxy trifold is anticipated to be announced somewhere later this month, and there's no indication of when it will really go on sale. It seems quite likely that Samsung isn't ready to release the model just yet, which is why it makes perfect sense to delay the announcement and debut it alongside the Galaxy S26. Bringing the trifold into the mix would signify that the trifolding phone isn't just a concept gadget, but an actual phone that's as capable of being someone's next phone as the S26 and S26 Ultra. The Galaxy S26 series will benefit from the prominence that the first mainstream trifold handset would bring to the announcement event. It's a hazardous gamble, but that was what Samsung was all about before it lost its way and stripped its phones of their unique personality. There is still a while to wait until the S26 Ultra likely arrives. But a recent rumor about the hardware has me wondering what its draw will be for the typical consumer. While the next generation of Samsung flagship phones won't debut until 2026, there are already rumors swirling about what we may expect from the gadgets. 2 of the most recent come from well-known leaker Ice Universe and Galaxy Club. In a recent post on X, Ice Universe speculates that Samsung will enhance the energy density of the battery for the S26 Ultra. This would suggest that the battery can be significantly thinner/smaller without compromising the capacity, or enhance the capacity while keeping the size the same. Unfortunately, I doubles down on claims that the Galaxy S26 Ultra's battery will offer the same 5000 mAh capacity seen in the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Ice Universe also hints that Samsung could boost the charging wattage over the present 45-watt limit, but Ice Universe doesn't go into greater detail. Galaxy Club backs up this information but adds that it isn't just the Galaxy S26 Ultra's battery that could be familiar. According to the rumor, the S26 Ultra will likely include a 200 megapixels main camera again, but it's unsure if it will be a new sensor. As such, it is possible that the S26 Ultra could include the same main camera as the S25 Ultra and the Galaxy S24 Ultra. This report, and to be fair, it is a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt, underscores a significant concern I have about the latest smartphones getting enhancements based on software alone. Here's the thing. While Samsung phones remain some of the greatest phones on the market, the hardware advancements have stalled over recent generations. This has led to a concentration on software and AI enhancements as selling features for the latest phones. Now, if these reports prove out to be real, then we may conclude that the same will be true with the S26 series. The problem is that Samsung has arguably made this a much harder sell because of how expertly it deployed Galaxy AI into all its products. Currently, you can use the bulk of Galaxy AI capabilities on last year's Galaxy S24 series, the Z Fold 6 and Galaxy Z Flip 6, and the current S25 series. But Samsung has extended several capabilities, such as Circle to Search, to older devices like the Galaxy S21. Now, it is likely that Samsung will include special AI capabilities for the S26, but you'll still have access to the majority of Galaxy AI on previous models, which ends up undercutting the Galaxy S26 appeal rather a lot. This causes me to fear that Samsung is becoming too reliant on its AI to carry its newest phones. In my situation, I focus on hardware when I look at a new phone because it will remain constant for as long as I use the phone. Software, meanwhile, will evolve and update, making it a lot tougher to determine its value. If the older and newer versions have the same hardware, the rationale to buy becomes more focused on how many software upgrades you'll get, which is nowhere near as enticing an offer. With all being said, it is still very early days since we don't expect the S26 Ultra until early 2026 at least. There's a lot that we still don't know and a lot that can change before the actual announcement. Hopefully, the Galaxy S26 series will feature more than just token upgrades when it debuts, but only time and further rumors will tell. Let me know what you think. Would these small modifications be enough to have you move to a newer Galaxy S phone, or do you want far more impressive hardware changes before making a purchase? Next, the Galaxy S26 Ultra could boast a magical privacy function and a better OLED screen. Samsung may or may not produce a trifolding phone later this year, but we know it will likely introduce a new generation of Galaxy S26 come January. And due to a couple of habitual Samsung leakers, we have a notion of how the display could alter. First, from tipster Jukan Losariv comes a word from the Korean newspaper ET News that the S26 Ultra would feature a brighter and thinner screen, thanks to a new OLED technology that brings new materials and innovations. The new panel is said to employ the N14 material set, the latest generation of Samsung OLED display technology. In addition, it will feature color filter on thin film encapsulation technology, which removes the polarizer layer, a first on the Galaxy S series. Reportedly, this would only be on the S26 Ultra, not the rebranded S26 Pro or the S26 Edge. For comparison, the entire iPhone 17 lineup employs the new M14 with OLED display material set. The S24 series and S25 series both feature M13 material. This new material should boost the luminous efficiency of the phone, giving both a brighter display and a longer lifespan. The color filter on thin film encapsulation replaces the polarizing plates in OLED displays with a color filter and turns the pixel-defined layer to black. What does this mean for your phone? Simply, the polarizing layer decreases reflections and increases visibility, especially in sunlight. However, it thickens the display and blocks some of the emitted light, which means that the phone has to work harder to reach the necessary brightness levels, hence lowering the battery life. The color filter on thin film encapsulation utilizes a color filter for color reproductions, whereas the new PDL is aimed at eliminating reflection. This may be observed on the Galaxy Z Fold 7, where Samsung has incorporated color filter on thin film encapsulation tech since the Z Fold 3. The other huge screen report comes from habitual Samsung leakmonger Ice Universe. According to them, the Galaxy S26 would receive a new smart privacy screen dubbed Flex Magic Pixel. The feature would limit the ability for people to glance at your screen from the side to preserve your privacy. In a video from their tweet, you can see the display looks black, until you're squarely facing the phone. Since the S25 series runs on the Snapdragon 8 Elite processor, our hypothesis is that Samsung will opt for the next generation Snapdragon chip for the S26, which is speculated and reported to be the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Given how powerful the Elite chipset has shown itself to be, how much better will the sequel be? One report from Digital Chat Station suggests the new chipset will be substantially more powerful, with a 4.6 GHz CPU and 1.2 GHz GPU, an increase over the 4.47 GHz CPU in the current Elite. This doesn't tell us a lot, but normally the greater the clock speed, the better the chip will be. However, there has been some speculation that Samsung could return to employing Exynos chipsets, as it did with the Galaxy Z Flip 7. Sadly, Exynos chips generally come with poorer performance, as illustrated by a comparison of the Galaxy Z Flip 7 and the Snapdragon 8 Elite-powered Motorola Razr Ultra. While it's unknown how widespread this transition would be, earlier launches have seen Samsung exclusively sell phones powered by Qualcomm CPU in North America, with the rest of the globe getting Exynos chips instead. The fact Qualcomm Snapdragon chips have been more commonly available the past 3 years is more of a blip compared to the prior pattern, purportedly owing to chip shortages and difficulty manufacturing 3nm Exynos technology. Stay tuned for more updates and information on the highly anticipated Galaxy S series and witness the future of smartphones from Samsung. See you in my next video. Peace out.